which should be downloaded yourself from the MySQL page or any other pages, depending on the database you are using. Okay, back to requirements. As I said, the requirements are Java and database. So for each, before setting up the real server, you should pre-install the, let's use the example MySQL, and you should install the SQL and preferably add the MySQL user, which you will be using for your private Flex.bi. After adding the database and the user, you should go to the config folder in your installation. In this folder, you can see some files, mainly database, toml sample, and EasyBI toml sample, which we will be explaining today. First of all, database toml sample. This is a sample file for connecting to your database. It includes which adapter, which kind of database you are using, what is the database name you would prefer to use, the host location of your database, and the username password for your Flex.bi database user. And the next one is EasyBI toml, in which you are configuring more deep, more precise information about your server as such. And please note that before finishing the setup of EasyBI toml, the server won't start if the license key is not found. Okay, let's continue. So this was the basic setup for the server itself. There are some more advanced things you can do that are already included. For example, in the bin folder, there are start scripts for if you want to use them as the if you want to put them in your etc initd folders, or bat script if you're a Windows user. And these, let's look at one of the files. In these files, you can change what kind of parameters are you running. For example, what is the max memory size, what is the minimal memory size, what kind of encodings, and so on. Also, you should show and write which version of, where is Java located if it's not in the standard path. And also where, if you are using multiple web servers on the same machine, well, how should this machine start in, for example, which ports? Okay. So after configuring config files, bin files, and adding the library file from MySQL web page, you should move on to the installation. In our documentation, you can see which is the standard things that are coming with our package. And if you look at the list and my shown sample, there is a folder which is conveniently which conveniently seems green, the import folder. This is used for automated imports, import files, which can be used to set up automatic imports from automated exports from Hansaworld, and I will guide you through how to set up those files, those export files. Other things you can see in our documentation are the database setups, which are for each MySQL, PostgreSQL, or MS SQL, how to start the applications, the startup scripts, which I mentioned, and even providing accesses from other locations. Yeah. Okay, continuing for automated exports and imports. I would like, so it is made in 3 steps basically. So you export the data from Hansaworld or Standard ERP. You transfer the exported files to your Flex.bi server, and then you import them through Flex.bi standard import procedures. We can provide, and yesterday you were told a simple way to use the standard exports provided by either Standard ERP or Hansaworld, but I will show you today how to use our custom HAL package, which can provide you more efficient exports by running them daily or hourly or monthly. So you can see all the information once again at our documentation pages. This, since it's on the servers, on the Standard ERP server side, then it is from, you can see the exports from source in our documentation, source data, and how automated exports. Okay, for our HAL automated exports, there are 2 requirements. Your Standard ERP or Hansaworld server should have a HAL license and our customized HALcast Hopcast files, which we can give you in a package if you support us with your version number and either your existing HALcast or just adding our HALcast to yours. So this should be done better by the administrator or programmer, which is in charge of your Standard ERP or Hansaworld server. I want to mention though, because the files are not as, file transfers are not as real time as REST API, it is suggested you do use REST API if your version supports it, if your Standard ERP version supports it. So this will be for mainly older versions, which are, well, Hansaworld Enterprise versions or Standard ERP 8.0 or 8.1, I think before, from 2015. So, first of all, I will go to my Standard ERP server, which, so this is my Standard ERP server. seems everything is okay. And there is the Hopcast folder and Hopcast folder, which contain our packages. And also I have created a new folder called BI export. This folder will contain any files exported with our packages. Currently there's one file. I have exported it as a sample, and I will show you how to do that. Okay, and I have here and opened this server. So first of all, to set up these things, please go to the Technics module, Settings, and Timed Operations. In this setting, there is the whole background task, whole routine, boot timed, and you should put here boot timed events and seconds 90. This will execute the functions provided by our timed events package every 90 seconds. Put it there, save, and close. That's one of the biggest challenges, and that's very easy to use. Next, let's go to the Systems module, Settings, and Flex.bi timed events. This is a full register. I have already put the sample data here. The sample data which we can provide is already in the in the documentation. Please use it if you would like. So there are two types of timed events: export everything and export partial. Export everything event means that the register will be fully exported every time the current timed event is run. For example, this one is set up so that it runs once a day at, well, today it ran at 12:56 and, at midnight. It's ended at midnight 12 and should run tomorrow also 10 past midnight. And it executes every one in an interval of 1 day, so basically nightly. It is suggested that you put full register exports like once a day during off times, or maybe once a week, so the interval would be 7, or once a month, so it will be 30. So basically after, let's continue. Basically, to fill out this page, use routine export everything in, routine type as maintenance, company number, for which company you want to run. So the data will be exported only from one company you have selected. Last run started, just leave it empty. Last run finished, also leave it empty, as these will to be changed automatically. And put your next run. For example, I would like to start tomorrow to run at 5 a.m. and put your interval, minutes, hours, days. And next is a little bit more tricky part, the matrix field. For export everything, maintenance export, there are 3 lines you should add. First line is ACC string STR, which means which register should be exported in this case. So I know the register name ITVC, The second line is object string, which will mean where exactly are these files exported. So I can, in the value column, I can put a folder name and the file name to which it will be exported. And thirdly, media and value too. This will mean that the export will be as a txt file, which is meant for Flex.bi imports. The second type of export, partial or customized exports, should be also run similarly. First of all, you should put routine export partial, routine timed maintenance, and report and company number, next run, and intervals. It is currently running each minute, and you can and it is also being created every minute a new file which overwrites the previous file. As you can see in my BI export folder, the file was initially created at 12:15, but it was just ran a few minutes ago at 12:21, and the new file is also dated from 12:21. The matrix fields for this type should be first line flag 0 should be value 2. The art mode, which is what kind of register you want to export. These should be values from 1 to 13. In our documentation, you can see currently there are 13 registers supported. We will add more if it is a necessity, but these should suffice for now. So one will be nominal or ledger transactions, second would be sales invoices, third should be purchase invoices, and so on. In the command string for our sample data, we have left which of these are which registers, so it would be easier to manipulate them. Okay. The third line, ob string, is also the name of the file, which will be the result. Currently, so the folder and the file name and result. And the fourth line, s start date, should be the starting date of the export. We can see it usually is for our customers or custom exports to use from the start of the month until this day or just this day. You can use here standard HAL functions to determine the date from which you start the export. And send date means until which date should be the exports made. It should be state date to say that until this day. And media, the same as export everything, should state too, and that means export file. So as you see, the file is changing every few minutes. After the file has been exported, you must copy it to your Flex.bi server. For this, we can provide some scripts that automatically copy the files to your server, or you could, if the system is the same for the standard ERP and the Flex.bi server, then you can just put your path directly to your Flex.bi server, or either you can do a network shared disk, which is also a possibility. To continue with the exports, you should copy this file. So either copy rsync, lsync, or other types to your Flex.bi import folder. So as you can see, I created an import folder, and here you can see all the folders listed there. So these inside the import folder, these numbers mean account numbers. For example, if I write 1, that means the first account should import these files. Inside this folder, there will be the file. You should copy to this account number folder your files, and they will automatically be imported if you set up Flex.bi to support automated jobs. Once they are imported, they are moved to the uploaded folder. Currently, I have not uploaded or imported anything, but you can read about more about automatic import setups from our documentation pages. To determine which account needs the import, you should go to the address bar and just see which is the account number. For example, 48. About automatic imports in your EasyBI TOML file, there are you can write your regular jobs which should be performed. They are currently in the sample file. They are commented out, but you can just uncomment them and they will execute every time they are called. So, for example, if I wanted to set up the automated imports every 10 minutes, I would just uncomment these lines, and either I would uncomment every or cron job. They are basically the same, but you can choose which is more to your choosing. For example, cron jobs can be more customized a little bit more. And just write and save your EasyBI setup file. And I think that should be enough for setting up automated exports and imports. So, to sum it up, on our documentation page, we have the requirements for a Flex.bi server. Before installing your Flex.bi, you should install a database and create the Flex.bi user, which you will use for your Flex.bi server. After that, configure your database files and your EasyBI files. And to run your automated file exports, just once again look at the documentation. Ask for the hopcast files either to us or your consulting Flex.bi persons, and create your own import structure. And that's it from me. If you have any questions, please ask them.
Thank you, Yanis. I think even I could now set up the exports. So we will continue with our colleague Elvis, who will talk more about the topics of server administration, a bit more from the interface side, what are the options and how to set up the parallel exports, and what tools we have created for you to make day-to-day work or with the server easier. Okay, Elvis, are you ready?
Hello, my name is Elvis. I'm involved in the product development of Flex.bi. Sometimes in administrating and things and fetching the errors and understanding where they are and how to fix them and so on. And so this is then what I will try to show you. Some things how to troubleshoot issues, deal with user access right management, with configuring the accounts and the possibilities you are using and so on. So I will start with a basic thing that yesterday we also mentioned in the tips and tricks webinar, but I think everybody will benefit from looking at it again. And it is the different types of users that you can have in Flex.bi. And so let me show you. So if you are in a specific account in Flex.bi and you want to add a user or change his access rights, you go to here in the upper right corner and go to account users. You will see all the users that have access rights already to this account. You can invite new ones. You can set up the access rights of these invited users, or you can change the access rights for these specific users. So let me explain quickly what are the different access rights. The dashboard viewer is the most limited user we have at the moment. There are improvements coming, but currently this is the most limited one. So this user can only look at the dashboard that you have created in the Flex.bi account, but all the dashboards, right? It's not yet possible to limit it to one single dashboard, but they will be able to see only those reports that you have included in the dashboards, not all the reports. So that's the benefit here. Viewer is a user who can see all the dashboards and all the reports that are created. So if you want somebody who has a tendency to mess up your beautiful reports, you might set them up as viewers. Users are the ones that have the normal rights of looking at the reports, dashboards.
Yes, and also they are able to create their own reports, but they cannot modify the ones that other users have created.
Okay, and reports admin obviously can administer all the reports and all the dashboards, but they cannot manage the data sources. So they cannot add new data files or edit the current ones and so on. That can be done by this data admin user, who can use this source data tab that I will look at in a bit more detail later, and then manage, remove files, remove other data sources, add new ones, and so on. User admin, on top of that, can manage users, so what we are doing now. And owner is more or less same as user admin. The only difference really is that you cannot remove owner, so that an account will have always at least one user in it, so it's accessible at all, right? You can change owner of the account. By default, it will be the user who created this account in the first place. So in this case, we can see it's Otto, but if we want to take this privilege away from Otto for some reason, then we would set here this me. I'm the webinars at Flex.bi user currently, and then I would become the owner of this account. And as you can see, now the access rights switched, and this went automatically to the next level down, which is user admin. Now there's a additional one specific type of user, because these access rights are per account, right? So they can admin these things in one single account where they have the access. However, if you want to have a user who can manage all the accounts, then you want to go to all users. You can either search for a specific one or show recently created users, which will show you, well, in our case, pretty much all the users. And then you see this label here, system admin. So those are these super admin users who can manage all the accounts, all the users, all the data sources and everything in the system. So if we would want to set this demo user as a super admin, for example, we would go in, check this checkbox and click update. We don't want to do that because this is a demo user, but I think you understand the point. System admins will have also other interesting features available, but I will come to those ones in a second. Let me continue now with a bit of dark screen. Well, I mean, usually I prefer dark. Here it's white, but anyway, you understand the point. I will show you some things in the terminal. Yanis already mentioned different config files, and I just wanted to kind of go in a bit of more detail there. So let me see where I am. I'm in the config folder. No, I'm not. Where am I? Oh, I am, okay. So let me just quickly look at the configuration files again. So this is your database config file where you select what type of database you have, where to connect remotely or locally and so on, and what username and password to use. Very straightforward. But a bit more interesting one is this EasyBI file. And let me just go through some of the options. So here is where you enter the license details that will be sent by us to you. Here is where you can override the time zone in case your server is hosted in, I don't know, Amazon Oregon data center, but you want it to have European time zone or something like that. Then if you want to disable new account creation for users that are just created, and allow that only to system admins, then you could disable it. Is allowed by default. No, it is disallowed by default, and here you can change that by setting it to true or false. Same here, so you can either enable or disable new user registration, depending on your policy. If you want to invite them specifically, or you want them to access the system by default. Then you can use, you can allow or disallow so-called public accounts. What are these public accounts good for is that they don't require authentication for viewing the data. So if you want to, for example, set up some reports to be shown on, let's say, your web page or your intranet or your and any other system, you might use this public account to set it up in a way that everybody can view the reports and dashboard that you have created. Then you can set an account to a public state, and it will be possible without logging in. And custom schema accounts, I will not go into any details, not really necessary here. So plan params set to true, that comes by default in this example configuration file. You should not change that. URL options, you should change those if you have some specific setup of web server that is serving this Flex.bi application. So different, let's say if you are using HTTPS or you are using some custom ports or something like that, or you want to access the system over different URL, then you can adjust this here. So this is basically used for Flex.bi by Flex.bi to generate the correct URL wherever you click somewhere. Then with this one you can set up outgoing email, mainly for three things: user invites, dashboard emails, and sending out error messages if something like that happens during automatic import process. Then an important thing is this Phantom.js binary that is used to prepare dashboard printouts to PDF when dashboards are emailed. This is like a binary that takes the result of the page and puts it in a smart way in a PDF, attaches it to the email, and then sends it away. There is a documentation on how to set it up on our documentation page. Then here is where you can, in two different ways, schedule automatic imports, either in this more flexible cron tab format, or just every 10 minutes or every 60 minutes or something like that. Here is an interesting configuration option where you can configure how many parallel imports can happen at the same time. This is needed if you have multiple accounts, specifically if you have many accounts. Then and with large amounts of data. So what can happen if you have 10 accounts and they have all say large invoice files, right? Then by default they will wait in queue until, let's say, first account starts to import data, and the second one will wait in a queue until the first one finishes. If your server is powerful enough to handle 2 or 3 parallel imports, obviously you would set up the SQL and Java memory parameters accordingly, and you would have enough CPU threads to handle that. But you could play with these so that the imports would happen in parallel and thus would finish earlier. I will come back to this in a bit to demonstrate how that actually looks in the system and how you can monitor how many imports are happening at the same time and so on. To be honest, I think that from, let's say, normal configuration options, this is all you should need. Because by default, for private installations, we have enabled both Jira integration, REST API integration, SQL integration, and Hansaworld integration. There are potentially possible other integrations, but if you need any, then basically reach out and we will tell you what's possible, what's not. These should cover 90% of our customer needs at the moment. Okay, then one more thing I want to show and explain before going back to Flex.bi web interface is the folder log. So let me go to logs folder. Currently there's nothing in here. Let me go, because this is a fresh new installation. Let me go to one that has some data in it. Okay. Now, as you can see, logs are rotated automatically. This is why we have some 10 logs at the same time, with history back from Feb the 6th. So for troubleshooting, that should be more than enough. So what are the differences? So console log is the log file where different Java framework errors and things like that are written to. Normally, this should not be needed for you for troubleshooting normal issues. EasyBI weblog has different things regarding the web interface. So what page is opened, what request is created, and so on. So with this, you can look at, for example, you can see that there's something wrong. For example, here, when user made this request, then there were some routing errors and things like that. So basically, Ruby on Rails, which generates this web interface, informs you what parameters are used and so on. So you can use this to monitor the activity and maybe catch some errors as well if something happens. But the most interesting one is the EasyBI queues log file, which contains information about the import status in all the accounts. And this one also contains then the information about different errors, for example, happening during the automatic imports, which is kind of the next thing I'm getting at. So at the moment, let me go and set this to tail minus f, which means that we will get this dynamically updated on the screen, so we can come back and see what's happening. Meanwhile, let's go back to this system admin tab. It's a bit sometimes confusing, maybe. Let's say if I will go to dashboards, and the system admin tab will disappear. That's by design, but you can access it through this cogwheel. So you can go either to all users, for example, and the system admin will appear again. And this is the way you can access a page called background jobs. So remember, in the configuration file, we could set up how many parallel jobs are happening at the same time. So this is where we can see this configuration resulting to. So we can see that there are 2 regular input, 2 application input, 2 file input, and 1 dashboard email processes in parallel can happen, but nothing is happening at the moment. So what is the difference? I won't go in too much detail. Basically, what you are interested in is the application import. So normally you will set up your source files or REST API connection to Hansaworld server, and then application will automatically import it every X minutes, right? So this is why the application import is the most used one in our setup. However, if you have some file import set up separately, let's say you are importing some information from some comma separated file or something like that, then this will be used for that. A regular import will be used for other types of imports, like if you connect to some custom REST API or custom SQL database, and that gets refreshed regularly, and then this will be a regular import. All right, so let me show you that it actually works. So I will go to, I have access to 3 accounts currently. So let me just go and empty all the data from these accounts, and then I will go and start the import at the same time. So you can see that import will be happening at the same time. Don't find that at the moment. Empty. All right, so let me start then by pressing the import button on the application. So this will be an application import. And let's go. Now I have to move quickly so that the imports are not finished yet. Okay, and then import. Okay, so I am running 3 imports in parallel, and you can see that I can see here that this demo REST API import is waiting in queue, because the first 2 ones are taking the 2 of the 2 available slots for application import. Right, so this is how you can see what's happening. You can also cancel the import if, for example, you see that a more important import is waiting in the queue and less important, let's say more time-consuming imports are before him, and so on. So this gives you some management possibilities. However, I must warn that if a big file is being imported, then cancel import will not really cancel it at the same time. It will actually wait until this current file, for example, is finished, and then it will cancel the import, so that you are not kind of if this is an urgent situation, you can always restart the server, but it can lead to a lot of problems with database locks and so on. So it is, I would really discourage you, unless it's, I don't know, the server is about to be flooded, and it's better to actually turn it off than continue running it or something like that. Anyways, so the parallel imports are happening. Next thing I want to show you is a page. There's another page available only to super administration users, and this is system events page here. So what this one is for is it lists here some errors happening mostly during the imports, and mostly the ones that are related to different SQL configurations and things like that. Also, things like too long queries, for example, will show up here. So if you have created this very, very super advanced report that takes more than 60 seconds to actually get the results to some query, you will be able to see this here. And also some other issues, like here, where olapcube actually returns that there's an exception, and then you can see what the exception is. And so this way you can kind of see whether some report should be made easier or just redone in a different way. So this is system level errors, right? Then there are account level errors as well. They might happen. So let me find one. I had an example here, but the account is still being imported. So let me actually switch then, and so that we can see what the EasyBIQ's log file contains here. Let's talk about that. So here you can see that this is the dashes when we actually started the import. We can see that this one nicely lists by account and by type of file what is being imported, how many rows are imported, what time it took to import these, and so on. So this can help you to monitor the health level of different imports. For some specific types, there are even more information available here. And in a second, I will show you what happens if there's an error in the import of some file. Currently, it's still being imported, so let's come back to that in a second. Meanwhile, I will switch to the documentation page again. There's a page for account parameters. So if you are a super admin and you will select edit account, you will see that in addition to the normal name and description fields, you will have here a new field called plan parameters. So this plan parameters allows you to configure very interesting things. For example, if you want this Hansaworld application to work through REST API, not files, right? It's not possible to work with both at the same time. You have to choose. By default, it's from the TXT files, but you can select also to import from the REST API. Then you can select how many days at the same time should be selected at how many days of data should be fetched with one request. So if it's a large database, you want to put it lower to, let's say, 1 or 2 or 3 days. If it's a small database, then it can be more, and so on. Then you can set up one of the main parameters, which is the plan, type of plan of this particular account. So there are 3 plans available. You can see the comparison on our web page, by the way. So in the pricing, you can actually compare what the 3 plans are for, or what do they include. So normally you would probably, if you have a private server, you would select either standard or business plan, and then this is how you do it. So in here you would then set Flex.bi plan to standard or business. Then in addition, that's very important, like a main configuration parameter. Then in addition, you can control with parameters also some aspects of the import or how the data is handled. One of the things in the financials cube is you can set a profit account to some profit account, basically where you normally in the year end you set all your profits to that account, and then in the beginning of the next fiscal year you start again by transferring this profit to other accounts. And you don't want this to be actually imported in your Flex.bi, because then you will have actually doubled numbers. So this is how you set this profit account, which can be different for every company. Then you can also have specific cases. By default, we import only okayed records. So with these parameters, you can control if you want to import also not okayed records, either sales orders or invoices or other records in other cubes in a similar way. This is a very interesting parameter which controls how many threads in parallel are used when importing data from the same file. So imagine you have a file with 10,000 invoices. If you will use only one thread, which is the default option, then one invoice at the time will be imported and inserted in the SQL database. With this, you can set it to 2 or 3 or 4 threads, which is, again, it depends whether your SQL server can handle that many threads. I mean, is it actually worthwhile? So you can play around with this to see what is the optimal thread amount for imports to get the fastest possible import times, because with too many threads, it can actually slow down. So you have to play around with these, and on different hardwares, different setups, the improvements will be different. But this is definitely something to look into. And then, in addition to that, you can control some features, like enable and disable some features, like active and loyal, new customer measures, and so on, which not everybody needs. So you can enter these plan parameters here, as you can see, line by line, update your account. And one thing to be aware of is that after you update the plan parameters, you actually have to empty the account, or sometimes even remove the cube, and then start the import from the beginning.
Yes, it's suggested that you set up those before you set up your account.
Yes, but if you have to do it in the middle, then you have to probably remove the cube and then start the import again. Now let me come back to the error that is finally here. So we can see that the import finished with an error. You can click here to get a bit more information. So it's not very detailed. It says that it's an invalid date. So we can switch to source files tab, refresh, and we can see that which one file is the faulty one. However, sometimes I mean, there are many different possible errors that can be shown here. So sometimes it's hard to understand from this one what is wrong. In this particular case, if I open the file, I can see that my date separator here is set to slash, but the dates actually are dots. So that's the issue, right? If I will actually set this to dot, upload this file back to Flex.bi, then the import will and press the import button, then the import will successfully continue. However, if you have troubles understanding what that error message means, then you can go to this EasyBI queues log file, as I mentioned earlier, and we can see that here we started to import that file. It is importing on 4 threads, which is a setting I mentioned. And here I can see that there's an invalid date, and it actually gives some more information that sometimes we might ask you to provide, so we can help you. So I have a question from Tom here. Do we have more information about the data import parameters? Yes, currently this parameter page that I showed you, I mean, the ambition is to have all the parameters there. Currently, we are just before releasing version 3.0, which will have a bit more additional parameters for the stock cube and other cubes. So we will update the documentation accordingly. But for the current versions, that parameter page is actually up to date. But there will be new parameters coming, is basically what I meant. And then there's okay, so there's a question from Alan. where is the inventory cube is basically the question. And so the inventory cube, or the stock cube, how we call it, but as we know, between different English-speaking countries, the terminology is a bit different. The stock cube in the new version that we will release most likely next week will be very, very much improved. Currently, there's only support for item statuses, so what are the item levels, and then some analysis by location in the sales cube, which Alan is using already. However, the support for item history from Hansaworld server, and also for stock depreciations, good receipts, and stock movements is coming in this 3.0. So hold on, Alan, and we will probably show it to you in person in May, hopefully. And then the last thing I wanted to quickly show you is we have had questions on how do I see what's happening behind the scenes in the SQL database. And then so what we are using for this, I mean, there are multiple tools that can access SQL database, right? So choose whatever tool you prefer. We are using SQL Pro because it's free and it's nice, I think. So currently I will connect to let me fetch quickly the parameters. So basically you enter here whatever are your server parameters. I will connect with this and with this, and I will actually do it. One nice feature this one has is that it can actually connect over SSH. So for example, I can actually say that the SSH host is this. I can connect via root, and with my private key, which is, this is not my computer. Where is it? I will connect with my private key, and this test connection is helpful as well. So I'm sure now that I can connect, and I'm connecting to this server. So let's go to this 48. Okay, so I'm a bit too quick here. So this one lists all the databases in that server that this user can access. You can see that we are doing a lot of testing here. And so this one is the REST API based account. So if I connect to it, then we are running out of time. So very quickly, I will explain the differences between these tables. So this is the dimension table for time elements, or the time members. So for example, we can see here that we have only two elements here, which is 2016 weekday and basically quarter, well, January and February of 2016, right? So those are the ones that will be available if you go to here, invoices, and if I go time, measures, then as you can see, I have only January and February, right? And this is why I have only two members here. Then there are main two types of tables. One is for the members of dimensions. So for example, customers, right? So these are all the dimension members of the dimension customers. Again, if we go here, I will take the time away and I will go in here, and and you can see that those are the elements here. So this is how you can troubleshoot sometimes if you have imported your customer file and you don't really understand why something is appearing and something is not, and so on. So this is quite obvious which column is what and so on. And then there's the second type of tables, which always end in underscore measures. So those are the central tables of that cube containing facts. Those are a bit more cryptic because more or less they contain foreign key IDs to all the dimensions and then the facts themselves. So basically these numbers in the tables are coming from this table. So this is where you can troubleshoot why information is shown in a way it is. Now, a tip here is that how you can use these actually tables and this SQL database in general is to maybe replace implement some kind of a SQL shadowing functionality that you would sometimes want to have in Hansaworld, like the possibility to connect with SQL tools like some reporting tool. I don't think any reporting tools are better than Flex.bi, by the way, but still, maybe you have some needs to connect to SQL database of Hansaworld by third-party systems, for example. Then this can sometimes be used like that. So you don't have to have actually SQL shadowing. You can use this because most of the data is here anyway. That's all on my list for today. Let me check if there are any more questions. And no, there are no more questions. So next point is grand finale by Datsu. So let's see what that is. I'm curious.
Thank you, Elvis. The grand finale is big thank you for everyone who was participating and for you guys to showing it all and making it much clearer for all of us. Tomorrow we continue with the profit and loss and budget importing. Also talk more detailed about any other external data import. So if you are planning to do things to that direction, please join us tomorrow. So it will be 2 p.m. GMT time tomorrow. And those webinars are recorded and they will be available after this session on our documentation page in the demo videos and tutorial section. And if you have any questions about the private Flex.bi administration tools and options, have a look at our documentation, use the options that are there. If you still have a question, contact us and write to our email or our support Skype. Thank you and see you tomorrow.